Okay.
I'm ready, Adi. When you are, I am ready. We can go ahead and get started with the session.
मम्मा मैंने बाहर स्पीकर रख दिया.
Adi, can you hear me? Hi, everyone. I'm Vandana, and today I'm going to be discussing about security hardening in your pipeline. And I hope you can hear me well. So let's get started. I am a security advocate or security relations leader at Sneak. With OWASP, I am neck deep into it, wherein I am one of the global board of directors, currently serving as a vice chair for OWASP, and also a local lead at Bangalore. I'm also on the review board for Black Hat Asia, Grace Hopper, India, besides conferences. Apart from that, I also run some diversity initiatives in India, which is InfoSec Girls, InfoSec Kids, and WooSec. Now, coming back to the topic. Now, when we talk about building security into the pipeline, it's always a challenge wherein who is responsible for it? Who is going to take care of it? That's one big challenge. And that's when a point come wherein it shouldn't be like a blame game, wherein if a breach happens or if an incident happens or if something happens, it actually should not be like a blame game. It is like we all are working together. Dev working with ops working with security. So we all are working together. Now, this is what people feel when we talk about DevOps and security. Like security is cleaning the mess which DevOps has created, which we all know that this is not the case most of the times and a lot of times. Now, this is what we really want. We want DevOps together and with the SecOps. SecOps working with DevOps, DevOps, SecOps. There's no particular term that we really want here. We want all of these people to work together, all of the teams to work together. Think about somebody says that you have to do it. We'll be like, no, if you put me a pressure, I wouldn't be able to do it. But then when it comes to a point where, hi, Adi, should I start again? Okay, so now when we talk about a typical testing progression, it starts with the static analysis, then unit test, integration test, and acceptance test, and then let's go to the live. But when we talk about moving the whole pyramid, or the moving the whole wheel, it is fast in the beginning, but it becomes slower in the end. And that's when DevSecOps comes into picture, when it provides the visibility. It actually gives us the observability, traceability, confidence and compliance that yes, the process that we have in our organization is secure while we are working towards going live. Now, in DevSecOps, integrating security into the pipeline is something which is needed, which starts with the ideation phase itself. Now, when I say ideation phase, it starts with the user stories. When we start talking about these are the things that we need in our environment. And once we start doing that, we are working on the code pieces. Code can be developed in any of the languages. Now there comes a secure coding portion wherein we are securely coding it. We are testing the code even before it's going to the build. Now we do the linting, we do the scanning, we deploy it, and we manage the changes, the deltas, all of that. Now this whole process which happens, people talk about that it's a shift left, or it's a strategy wherein we are trying to have a process wherein we are integrating security early into the pipeline. Now, when we are trying to do that, there is one important aspect that we a lot of times forget, is that we tend to forget enabling other people, not just developer, but other people who are part of the whole process. Think about if somebody comes and says that there is a high severity finding, and you have to fix it right away. You are from the security team, you can't fix it because you have dependency on other teams. Would you be able to do it? No, you wouldn't be able to do it. Similarly, when we tell developers go and fix these findings, when they have no clue what's happening in the background, what this vulnerability is all about, or how am I supposed to react to it, how are they going to do it? So that's when enabling developers or empowering developers comes into picture, and enabling security so they understand the environment well. And it's a win-win situation for both the teams, wherein starting from the planning phase itself to testing to build to code to every phase that you can think of, from like if we start from planning, we have certain things available with us. Then when we are coding, we are testing it for possible vulnerabilities. Then we are building it, we are testing it. Now, one thing to remember, if we fix a bug later in the life cycle, it is only going to cost us more. And that's when security process sometimes is left behind, where we stop the whole cycle for some reviews. Could be a code review, could be an audit, could be something else. Now, this shouldn't happen. When we talk about security or application security or DevSecOps, it has to go through the full cycle. And how it happens is when we start automating it, when there is no dependency on the other teams. And I know this is my code, it has to go through a process, and then this is where exactly it's going to land. Now, then, when we know that, yes, or understand that, yes, this is part of our process, everyday job, which means we have to do it. And stopping for a review will only slow down my needs, my business, and pushing to production, which nobody wants. The kind of super fast era that we live in, which is even going to be more fast, wherein there are multiple releases in a month, multiple releases in a week, multiple releases in a day. So can we stop for something? No. But what we can do is we can automate the things, and we can fix those findings if there's something that we need to. And think about the whole integration, that how exactly it can be smooth. There are certain tools, technologies which developers are using. How about we integrate security into their products itself? So thinking from a perspective, when you have a code and you start doing the code reviews. Now, code review could be a very tedious task. Like I remember doing those manual code reviews back in the day, and it used to take weeks. Now, do we have weeks time to just scan the code? I feel no. Then comes a point wherein you are testing application. So wherein the build is ready, everything is ready. Now you're testing the application. Is it feasible? No. Why? Because if you find a bug at that point of time, it is only going to create a problem. Wherein I remember stopping a go live just because there were some bugs which were critical. They came at the end of the life cycle, because that time we were not following the whole DevSecOps process that we talk about, and mm, uh, the hardening of systems were not there, or were not so prominent at that time. That was the culture. But then there is a shift in the culture which is happening, wherein we are coding, we are integrating with our environments, and then those environments are testing it, fixing it, and monitoring it if there are possible vulnerabilities. And I'm going to show you all of that. Now, if you talk about the whole CI/CD pipeline, which is helping in monitoring, and not just for monitoring the possible vulnerabilities, but fixing it, opening PR requests, and checking what version is not fine, what is fine in the code, which place I see a bug, which I need to fix. And then when it goes to production, we have certain environments which are set up for them, how exactly we can deploy or be a security gate and not a security gate. So we work together and make people understand that in the whole integration, there are multiple technologies that we are using, and how best we can leverage them with the open source tools, with the commercial tools that we currently have. There might be certain tools which are needed, which can be put forward with the leadership, that these are the things that are needed for DevSecOps, and the getting this into the action. Now comes a point wherein you say that why leadership would understand that there's something which is happening, and there's some change that we need. Till the time we don't show the benefits, we don't show that this is the return that we're going to have, we will take less time to production, we will have less time to do such things, and we will show results in numbers. And similarly, when leadership cascades all of these information very openly, very much transparently, that these are the things which are possible at the moment, and these are the possible things which are which might not be possible. Now, okay, now comes a point wherein we also have so much of open source code. Think about how much of a code which you have written as a developer, or as a security person, you've seen that which is developed in-house. I've seen only 10 to 20% which is being built in-house. Rest of the other code is like all open source. So 80 to 90% of the code base is open source. When that much of a code is open source, that means we need to be very, very cautious about vulnerabilities. Like way extra cautious about it. On top of it, if we have a vulnerability in a library, and that library is fixed or being removed from the code, but who knows that there is another vulnerability in another dependency which is there. And that's when comes a point wherein how much is a code, and how much is our app, and how much is a code. So that's going to be fun, because a lot of times we don't know what dependencies we have in our environment, and that's where the problem comes. So there was one Node.js or npm library which was vulnerable, and which was vulnerable for like years. People were updating it, but then there were certain things which were still there. And that's when in 2018 people flagged it big time, and that got fixed. And that's the point wherein when we have these open source codes, we have containers, we have infrastructure as a code, wherein we have a YAML file, or we have a file which actually helps us in spinning the whole environment. And what happens next if we don't have we don't have it rightly configured? We're going to see the breaches which we have seen in the past with a lot of big giants. And especially if I talk about Equifax, what happened there? There was an Apache version which was old. There was a like a patch which was released, and it took some time to update that patch. And it happens a lot of times when even in our phones, sometimes we don't update the software or the update that comes in immediately. We wait, check it out, and then we go ahead and push to production. So attacks just don't happen immediately. It's always over a period of time. Generally, that's the trend that I have seen, and research also says that. So what we can do is we can detect them fast, we can respond to them fast, and do it at scale. Now, what I mean by doing at scale is that you fixing a bug in one of the application, which are out of 100, out of 200. Now there are 200 applications and you are only fixing on 2 or 3 applications. Is it going to help? No, it is not going to help. But yes, let's understand how many internal applications, how many external applications, what are the applications which are in DMZ zone or demilitarized zone, and how we're going to target all these applications. It's very, very important. Now comes a point wherein how do we sample the DevSecOps process. So this is a basic template that I feel that when you are integrating your environment, especially from a security point of view, if I have to say, let's start using the tools which developers are using, which are already in our environment, and how to make the most of it. So starting with the code review, wherein what are the tools which are available. And even I'll tell you something very interesting. So this is something about open source tools. If I say that if I have to build like a free pipeline or a pipeline with like the minimalistic of resources, there are so many open source tools which are available. Now with those tools, what can we do? So that's where comes the security hardening. Right now, we are just running the pipeline and just using the tools which are available. And then you start leveraging the tools which are open source or maybe commercial. Let's say for threat modeling, Threat Dragon is available, Pytium is available. For code review, there's a code review guide which is there, which was last updated, if I remember, 2017-18. And if you feel that you want to contribute to code review guide, please do so. Then there are risk assessment frameworks which are there, which can be leveraged for code review. Now, on top of it, there are other challenges that we just talked about, like we have only 80 to 90% of the code which is like open source. Like just 80 to 90% of the code, if it's open source, that means it's making our whole application. And that's when comes the dependencies and all the third-party components, which needs to be tested. There are organizations who say that we have integrated code review tools in our environment and we are scanning our code. But to the thing is, if we are only scanning our code, which is developed by us, are we scanning all the dependencies, all the things that are needed from the ground up? No, we are not. And that's when we have to use the software composition analysis things like dependency track, dependency check. Both of them are great. So if you have a software bill of material, dependency track is one incredible tool. And if I talk about vulnerability testing is like the it's been there for like forever. And when it's there, it also requires everything needs to be updated on time. People are updated on around the new vulnerabilities. So there's a web testing guide which gets updated every 3 years, if I'm not wrong. And similarly, there is a mobile testing guide. So if I'm a new person and I am joining application security, I need to have some place where I can look at it. So web testing guide is one great place. And security hardening is not just with the tools. Remember that security hardening is with people, process, technology, and culture, because security is a mindset. If we don't have the right mindset, that means, or if we are not leveraging security to its core, or if we don't have proper measures to secure our applications, what will happen? Breaches. Or maybe if there are times when we have seen that there are publicly available information about a lot of organizations, which nobody wants. When we are creating good products, when we are trying to make sure that customers are happy, we don't want to be in news for something bad. So we have to have that. We have to understand that these are the things which are needed for security. Now, from the open source perspective, Zap is a very good proxy which we can leverage. Even Burp Suite has like a commercial, or what you call it as community version, which we can leverage and we can put it as part of the life cycle. Then defect dojo. Now, what is that? If we are doing everything right from the beginning till the production, but if we miss out on tracking the bugs, or if we miss out on fixing the bugs, it's as good as not doing anything. And that's when defensive controls comes into picture. And when defensive controls comes into picture, this comes with the chaos engineering, wherein what it is about disciplined approach to identifying the failures. And when we are trying to identify those failures, that means we are avoiding those outages, any possible issues that can be there. And that's when how part comes. But how do I do the chaos engineering? Can be done by doing the security differently, understanding the infrastructure and the environment, that what we have in our environment, and rigorously testing them. We can use open source tools, but the automation is the key. If we miss out on automation, because a lot of people have been asking that if automation comes, are we going to lose on security? If the automation comes, are we going to lose our jobs, or how difficult it would be, or how different it would be? So automation is there to only help us and make our life more easy. Now, when we talk about compliances like GDPR, PCI, SOX, and all of these, or Brazilian Act, now, when all of these are there, that means we need to address it in the whole pipeline itself. Now, compliance is actually becoming the core as well. I've seen that we can check certain things in the code itself even before it's shipped to the production. So this really, really helps us in monitoring our applications. Now, when we are trying to do that, what are the possible use cases for security chaos engineering? So it helps in the incident response, security control validation, security observability, and not just that, compliance monitoring, wherein we can cover a holistic picture while we are testing our application. And there's a wonderful book by Aaron Reinhardt and Kelly Shortridge. The book is there on O'Reilly. It's amazing big book on security chaos engineering. If we talk about security chaos engineering, it was just the term, but Netflix made it happen with the Chaos Monkey, and people started talking about like what it is, and how we can leverage it for chaos engineering. And then comes observability. But what is observability? Because I've used this term a couple of times. So it's like a measure how well internal states of a system can be tested and can be challenged. And at the same time, observability is similar but not similar to security monitoring. And that's when we take help from multiple aspects, like cloud observability, network observability, application observability. So in cloud observability, so we start with the first thing, wherein there's a cloud account and that is being managed by multiple people. There are multiple resources which are available. So who is the control plane? What is the control plane? So control plane is nothing but like a big giant sort of an organization managing smaller organization, wherein all the smaller organization report to the bigger organization. So we understand that this is our control plane, and this is these are the items that we need to monitor. These are the things that we need to track. These are the assets that we need to be testing. And containers and serverless observability is also becoming the key. How? So containers, people say they are all secure. But if you have a base image which is vulnerable, or maybe malware installed, do you think the application that will be spin up, or maybe in production, it'll be safe? No. And that's when we need to observe our applications. We need to observe our network. And there are many use cases for observability these days. It can help us in looking at incidents and events. It can help us in fixing those events early on, investigating what could be the root cause for it, and sharing the investigation with the right teams. Because if we do the investigation and we don't share it with the right team, it's as good as not doing those RCA, root cause analysis. Because there are times when similar incidents might occur, and it's best to to have a proper process to send it to the right team. And that's when we can check the previous or related incidents. We can repeat the process whenever needed. And most of the time it's needed. And for DevSecOps to succeed, all of the things that I said are needed. And at the same time, we need people, process, technology, and most of all, culture, where we are inviting Dev and Ops team to participate in the security activities. We are interacting with multiple departments and assets, and we are trying to use the resources which are available. And that's when automation is the key, and we need to embrace it. Without embracing the automation, we cannot move forward. It's very, very tough. It's very, very challenging to have right things. We will miss out on things. Like everyone says, women's like people are the weakest link. And when we know that people are the weakest link, that means things can go wrong. Automation helps us. It helps us finding the flaws early on and automating the piece which reduces the time. Now, all of that is fine, but creating security champion is the key. And that's a major portion of security hardening. People think security hardening is just one piece. No, as I mentioned earlier, it's like people, process, technology, and culture. So I'll tell you a story wherein what we started doing is we started working towards building security champions in different teams which we were working with. How it helped us is that there were times wherein security was never invited to the scrum meetings or the stand-ups. And when they are missed, how would they know that there is something which is happening? And in the end, security has to test everything. But by building those security champions and teams, it only helped in expanding. It only helped in making sure that everyone is communicating with each other and sharing the right set of information so that that can be leveraged as early on. I remember there was a time wherein we found a medium bug in one of the application. We said, okay, we're going to take 15-20 days to fix it. There was a risk. That's the time that used to be there. But there was a change that happened in the middle. Now, with that change, that medium vulnerability became critical. Now, this was not figured out by the security team. This was figured out by the development team. And they figured it out because they were the security champions for us. And that's when cross-skilling plays the key role. If we don't cross-skill each other, we're going to always keep bashing each other. And that's when education comes into picture. That's when sharing the ideas comes into picture. That's when sharing the relevant details comes into picture. And you don't need to just sharing the details, but empowering them. Invite them to the security trainings which are there. And that's when CISO plays a very, very big role. And it has to be the whole process. It has to be everyday process. And if someone says ad hoc comes and say, oh, you have to do security today. And I'm like, no. And oh, you have to do a session today. And I'm like, no, this is not the way. And that's when, if it's part of my job, it's part of the whole process, wherein if you ask me about DevSecOps, if you ask me about integrating something, I'll just go ahead and do it. And that's when the ownership comes into picture. Earlier, the ownership was very scattered, or it was not defined properly. Now, when there are multiple pillars, when there are chunked pillars, there is a segmentation which is there from top to bottom. There is the way where we communicate all of these openly, we discuss it out, and we share what we can do right now and what we cannot, or like a fail fast strategy. And it's a team sport. Whatever you say, it's a team sport. Without working together, it can never help us. And that's when we need to go into the demo. Now, let me go ahead and stop my screen share and share it back again, wherein I can show you what exactly I mean. So today I am going to be showcasing you the pipeline with Azure, wherein how does it look like? What are the things which are there? So give me 1 second. Okay, let me just share. I think we'll do it together. So when I started understanding more about Azure pipeline, I was like, oh, it's going to be very tough because it's Azure or AWS because it's in the cloud. Now, what you need to do is you just need to go ahead and Azure DevOps. Here, you can figure it out that you can start for free or you can go ahead and sign in. Now, I already have an account built in. So I can go ahead and sign into Azure DevOps and I can start seeing what I already have. So I've already set up an account just before the session. And even before that, I had a session, I was just checking. Now, these are the organizations that I have: Bandara InfoSec, Bandara InfoSec 0655, and there are multiple. Now, if you want to set up your own pipeline, you might need some parallelism where you need to run the pipeline. So you can just set up yourself and send an email to Azure team, and they'll set it up for you for free. If you are sorry about my internet drop. Now let me go ahead and share back. Now, if you can see that this is my Azure environment. Now, this thing can be done in Azure and AWS, both of these. So the pipeline can be built in Azure and AWS both. Even we can build it with our GitHub or GitLab. Like I've done it with GitLab as well, and I have used the same thing with GitHub as well using GitHub Actions. Now, here in my project, there is board, there are repos which are there. So these are my repos. Then I do have a pipeline. Now here I have certain task groups which are created. Now in the pipeline, if I say that run, it has ahead and use the whole code Hi, Adi. Can you please give me the share access? I'll just go ahead and share again. Because I couldn't speak as soon as I joined back. There was some issue with access. Okay, I can do that. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. It's done. Now, I'll start again from here, wherein I have this Azure organization. So there are certain settings which I have, and these are the 4 organizations that I have. But in this organization, I have a project called Vandana Demo. Now, in this, I have boards. I have, like in boards, I can define what are the things that I need, and backlogs, I can define these are the backlogs, and I can define the sprints. If there are any queries or delivery plans, I can mention here. When it comes to repo, I can add some repos from the sources, and I can have files, commits, everything here. Now, when it comes to pipeline, I have some pipelines here. If you see, there are 2 pipelines which are passed. There's one which is failed because there were some issues. Now, let me go ahead and actually create a new pipeline. This is how it goes. Like, it's super easy to create a new pipeline and harden it. Now, when you click on create, here I have a pipeline, and under the pipeline, there are some pipelines which I have. And if, let's say, I want to create a new pipeline, what do I need to do? Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm not sure why my Zoom is getting disconnected. And I thought it's internet, but internet is fine. I've switched also. Now here in the pipeline, there is one pipeline which is failing, and the other pipelines which are fine. Now, if I have to create a new pipeline, I'll go ahead and click on new pipeline. And in that, there are multiple options which are available. So I'm going to use GitHub. I have already integrated my GitHub. So what it's going, oh, again, it says, okay. So under the this, it asked me to use my repositories. So I've already used these repositories before. So I can go ahead and use AWS Code Pipeline, Goof, Pixie. Now I'll go to Pixie. So this is one vulnerable repository, which is one of the project at OWASP called DevSecOps, and they have a vulnerable API version. So this leverages that the Pixie, wherein we can have a set of proactive controls in place, wherein we can think about it as what's happening. Okay, so we can think of it as like it gives us those steps to produce the application, to actually create a pipeline for the application. Now, if you see here, this is just a basic YAML script when we are starting the pipeline, we are triggering it, we are creating a pool of VM, and then we are writing some scripts. And then we can save and run. It's going to ask for the commit. I'm going to go ahead and run. Now, when I integrated it with the GitHub, it actually leverages GitHub for it. So if I make any changes, if I find any flaw and send a pull request, it is going to be updating in the GitHub. So the same way I used some of the open source scanners, wherein let me show you the current pipelines while this one is running. Here, I'll go. And if you see here, it actually lands me to the GitHub page. But from here itself, I can do multiple things. I can go ahead and run a pipeline. I can edit the pipeline. Now, if I want to add security to it, like running a pipeline, okay, you know it. But how about adding security to it? So here I can add multiple things. Let's say just before running the script, I want an open source component. So there are multiple tasks which are there. I have Ant, I have like, let's see, I use OWASP. So OWASP has dependency check, and ZAP scanner. So I'm going to add the project name, path, exclude the path, report format, all of this, and go ahead and add it. Similarly, if I want to add ZAP, let's go ahead and type ZAP or ZAP scanner. It's going to ask me that what exactly do I need? But do I need aggressive scan mode? When the failure should happen, if it's a targeted scan or we are scanning via an agent, I'm going to go ahead and click on add. And here that task has been created. Now you must be thinking that it's going to be difficult or it's going to be different for everyone. No, it's very simple. Now here, I'm going to go ahead and click on save, and it's going to commit to the pipeline where it's every time this will run, this action will be called. Now I'm going to go ahead and run it. Now run. Now while it's going to run, I want to say that there are a few things that I actually wanted to tell you. Let's say go to organization settings. Now under the organization settings, we need to have some extensions. So if I go to extensions, if you see, these are the extensions I have downloaded already. Now, how you can go ahead and download these extensions, or there are free, open source, and there are commercial things which are available. Now, I want to have, let's say, dependency. I'm going to search here. If it's available in the marketplace, you can go ahead and start leveraging it. Just click here, get it for free, and the extension will be involved, and we can leverage it out, leverage this for our projects or the pipelines that we have. So we can call this in our pipelines. It takes like a few minutes to make it happen, and that's about it. All right, now I can proceed to my organization, or I can go to marketplace. Let's say there are other free and open source things that we want, like Azure Cost Insights, I'll get it for free. Or maybe I want something which is, maybe I want what? DevOps Smartboard. Now I'll get started and I'll add it into the pipe, into my project or organization, to be precise. Now here it's asking me to sign in, which I don't have access to. but it was just the way that I'm showing that you can add any extension. And apart from that, there are multiple things that we can do here. Here we can allow the third-party applications to access via OAuth because we might have access to them. Then we can actually define what we really want here as part of the policies. The most important thing is permissions. How do we define our permissions? There are multiple roles which are there, multiple things that are there. We can create our own new group and we can define what kind of application. So here I have project collection administrators, project build administrators. I want a security lead. Now here I can add members. So I am the member. So I am Vandana member. I'm going to go ahead and create it. Now there is a role which is created and I can apply it on my projects. I can define who can access what. Similarly, for these pipelines, there are some settings which we can configure and we can leverage it from the security point of view. If you see this, you can disable anonymous access to the badges, limit the variables, all of these things. And on top of it, the one thing that I really appreciate is like OAuth configurations. I can just leverage my OAuth with multiple aspects. I'll just list down the client's ID secret and it can leverage the Bitbucket account or GitHub Enterprise Server. So it's easy and it doesn't ask me for my passwords again and again. And this is not just it. We can do a lot of changes when we talk about from project level as well. So in the project, we can go to settings and we can define like different things that could be there. So here, if I go to settings, I can define what are things that I want here. And I can also define what are the connections that will be done with this particular project. What are the permissions which are available for build administrators, contributors? What are the roles which are available? So if you see that there is already a group that I have created for default project team, I can add users to it. Like right now, I'm the only user. I can add maybe Adi or anyone else. So hardening in the cloud, let me go back to my presentation. So hardening in the cloud is not difficult, not easy. It's just we need to know where exactly things need to be changed. Right now, I've showed it for Azure. Similar things are there for AWS as well. So it depends what cloud you're using or what technology you're using for setting up the DevOps or DevSecOps environment. And why we need security? Because if we don't prepare our umbrella before it rains, we're going to be in big trouble. And that's when comes that security is everyone's responsibility, not mine, not yours. It's all of our responsibility. And it is never going to replace the pen testing activity. It is never ever going to do it. Pen testing will go on separately. The pipeline will run separately. You might want to have separate pipelines for a test, for a prod. We can go ahead and test it out. And sometimes people say that we have to accept risks or we have to accept the exceptions that are there. But remember when to stop it. Remember when to say no for these exceptions and when to fix them, when to get to know them. And there are multiple resources which are there, which talks about chaos engineering to shift left to hardening pipeline. These are the things that I wanted to talk about. You can reach me anytime on my Twitter handle, LinkedIn. And I'm so sorry about the Zoom bump out. I don't know what was happening. Could be internet connectivity or something with the Zoom. Now I'll go ahead and say thank you. I'll stop sharing. And if there's anything that you have or any feedback, any inputs, please go ahead and let me know.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Vandana Verma, for your presentation. Now we open to Q&A session. Let me check the first question. Please explain how to implement security hardening in appliance and telco and sound system via CI/CD pipeline. That's it. First question.
Adi, can you please repeat the question for me?
Yes. The first question is, yes, please explain how to implement security hardening in appliance and telco and sun system via by CI and CD pipeline.
Now, when we talk about security hardening in telcos or let's say any other organization, the first thing is understanding what environment we have. Because if we don't talk about these security hardening processes in our environment, it's going to be difficult. So we need to understand our environment, like what is our environment. Let's say if it's built on a certain technology, could be MySQL, could be PostgreSQL, could be Apache, could be Nginx. So understand what exactly our application is built on, because DevSecOps is never same for two organization. So I can't give you a book saying that these are the things which are going to be same for organization. No, it all depends on the components, the environment, the OS, the network the organization is using. And at the same time, what are the automation tools that we're using? Could be Ansible, could be Chef, could be Puppet. And depends on that, we start hardening them. We start changing the settings. We shouldn't have the default settings which are already there. People say that, oh, I am using cloud, I shouldn't be worrying about my firewall. No, there are things that we need to do. And that's when hardening takes a front seat, wherein automation is happening. But how do you fix those bugs? And there are multiple frameworks, there are multiple projects which are there, which helps in this. But how do you verify? How do you test it out is important. Now, let me post some links which can be helpful for security hardening, which are good ones and which might help you. So there's a wonderful link which I actually refer a lot. So it's here, which is DevSecIO. And there are multiple hardening techniques which are there, but you need to understand your environment, figure it out, and then use the relevant hardening techniques. But that comes with the automation. And there is one beautiful article that I like. You can read through it, which is how you can have a security hardening. And it is all about making sure that when we are using these applications, when we are creating exceptions, they are auditable. They can be looked back. Like I said, there was a vulnerability which was medium severity, and that became a critical one. So that was a big challenge. And there are organizations which says that we can't use DevOps or DevSecOps, and they're running smoothly. But then the way we are shifting culture, we need to have security embedded. We don't know when the cloud burst on us. And that's when we say that DevSecOps is not an option for anyone, or there's no set defined parameters in setting up security hardening for DevSecOps for a specific sector. But yes, based on the application, based on the need, we can define it. I hope this answers your question.
Yes. Yeah, is second question.
Mm-hmm. How to pick the right security champion? We know that not everyone wants to lend a hand on it. So this is one amazing question, because it happens over time when you realize this person is very curious in asking questions. And that's when you realize that, yes, this is the person who is going to help us out. Because not all the time they will be happy to lend their hand. But if we have an executive approval that this much of their time in a week they can spend with the security team, trust me, if we have a buy-in from the leadership, it is only going to help us. It is only going to make it more smooth. And then they will not have an issue in lending their hand. And what kind of training that we want to give it to the security champions? Should we keep it general and specific to the tribe related? It should be both. It should be a mix of it. Generic trainings, I think everyone gets it every year, wherein we go through the security training, we do the tick, 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 and done. We don't even remember the whole year what happens. Now, organizations are doing those trainings every 6 months. But is that all? No. And that's when the specialized training, how to do secure code review comes into picture, how to do threat modeling comes into picture, or how it helps in maturing the organization. That's when it comes into picture. Now, on top of all of this, it is like a, how we can start is, we started off with the brown bag sessions wherein we started sharing knowledge. And during those knowledge sharing sessions, there were a lot of people who used to ask questions, and we realized those people could be security champions. And we started working with them to enable them more, empower them more around the security. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Okay, there is any question again? We still open for Q&A session.
I'm here. I have another 5 minutes for the session, so I'm going to be here. Please take your time. Questions.
Okay. Okay. If there is no question again, we can close the session. We open for photo, take photo together. So don't forget to open your camera. That's it. I will give your permission to open your camera. That's it. Okay. Waiting. That's it. Please to all participants to open the camera, and we want to take photo together. That's it. Okay, please open your camera. That's it. You can see Miss Pandana. This is Indonesian. Hello.
Hi.
One. Yes. Please open your camera. Okay, we're waiting to other participant to open the camera. That's it. Let me to take the photo. That's it. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and then. Don't forget to give us the nice smile. Cheers. That's it.
Please feel free to share your inputs, feedback, or anything. I'll be more than happy to chat with you and discuss about these things that I have developed. And I'm happy to share it. It's all open source. It's all there on my website. And there are a few things which are not there. I am happy to share it with you.
Okay, thank you for Ms. Pandana Verma to give interesting topic in tonight. That's it. So if you want to keep more to learn learn to DevSecOps, you can reach out Ms. Pandana Verma. Is her Twitter and is her LinkedIn. That's it. Okay. See you in the next session. Thank you again for our speaker, Ms. Pandana Verma. That's it. Thank you to all participants whom to join this session. That's it. Thank you. Bye bye. See you the next session. That's it.